Do you guys know what happens to your body when you're angry? Does anybody know? When you're angry, what happens to the human body? Anybody know? As soon as you get angry, your white blood cells begin to die off. Do you guys know that? Your immune system is compromised. Do you know that? As soon as you get angry, millions, if not billions, of cells begin to perish. They begin to shut down and die. When you are hopeful, full of faith, your body comes alive. It's almost like your body awaits commands. Healing begins when you're positive and in faith. When you're determined in love, massive healings take place. Your organs get a chemical signal to begin a restoration process. You may not know this, but naturally your body will rest every 7 days, and your body attempts to rejuvenate itself every 3 days. When you are very positive, hopeful, and full of that, let's call it a emotional overrun with love itself, your body begins to do some very miraculous things. Miraculous. For example, a lot of people have liver problems. They don't even know it, and they have liver and kidney problems. When you're positive, your body flushes poisons. It detoxes. You don't feel the withdrawal symptoms. Your endorphins are released, and it covers up some of the filtration that your body undergoes. There's a chemical signal, hormonal signals to reproduce skin cells. All sorts of things. It's just like when you're stressed, your hair starts falling out, right? When you are full of faith and hopeful, the opposite happens. You get a command that your body starts renewing immediately. If you stay in that mode, you're looking at probably a total healing in a very short amount of time. And that is scientific. That's not even an observation by faith-based individuals. That's a scientific fact. It's a wonderful fact, though. And again, that's when you're in love, right? When you're operating in that bubble of love, I'm going to call it, with a mindset of love, and you are positive, meaning you're hopeful about other people. You create an environment internally in your body. Your brain instantly sends out signals. There's a hormonal release of certain hormones that are hardly ever released. And there's DNA reproduction, brand new. The blueprints are pulled out of a lot of areas of the body. Your blood manufacturing center in the bones, they start going hyperactive, and all sorts of things happen. So your body just starts recycling everything. It's almost like your body says, okay, fellas, let's clean up. And believe me, from head to toe, things start changing. And you can notice that when you're happy, not actually happy, but when you're motivated by love itself, and you are determined by way of love, not only does your mind change, but it's the only time brain cells begin to grow again, and you produce lots of new connections with your neurons. Memory is restored. A whole host of things happen, right? Again, if you're negative, the opposite happens. Your body starts falling apart. It starts breaking down. You send out a kill signal, basically, by way of chemicals to start shutting down cells and everything else. That's when you're negative. That's when you're in the negative mode of operation. And that really is a good demonstration of dark and light. And some of the presentations, they show you all the facts behind it. One presentation, of course, I'll have to shorten it because it's 5.5 hours long. I didn't realize it was that long, but it is. To go over all the images, microbiologists have submitted pictures that show real-time images of proteins at work when you're positive and joyful and happy versus when you're oppressed, and from the same individual, right? So it's not coming from, they're not showing images from one happy person and then one sad person. Nope, from the exact same person under two different conditions. And you get to see the instant, real-time responses of components in their body react. And it's awesome, though. And it's very true. So healings take place, and it really reminds me of the times when, for example, that woman who pressed through the crowd, right? And she touched the hem of the garment of Christ. Now, in order to press through the crowd, you've got to be of a different mindset. And if you're a woman at that time, you can't touch a rabbi. So she was risking it all to touch him, first of all. What mindset do you have to be in to touch it all? It's not being desperate. No, that's not what it was. Listen to me. She knew for a fact because she pulled a virtue out of Christ. So she knew if she could touch him, she would be healed. The mindset there, right, was not one of desperation, but she was persistent in her faith, in believing that if she could do this, right, that was the answer to a long-term problem she had. So she pressed through the crowd. Right? Kind of like, I don't know, you can't be negative doing that. You can't be full of doubt either, because you would not risk your own life to do that. You have to be persistent and full of faith, hopeful in all ways. And when she did this and touched the hem of his garment, she pulled the virtue out of him. She pulled it out of him. I thought that was quite interesting when the Lord talked about that, because virtue, of course, are all the good qualities of an individual. So here's why I'm saying this, because when you're in the right mindset and you start doing things, you may not know this, but you start to pull from the environment all around you. You start to pull things. For example, like your body. When a human body is born and a mother's pregnant, the mother's body will pull every element out of everything she eats, specifically for that body. You're made out of every element of the earth, all right? You also have somewhat of a connection to every element in the earth. You do. It's an unbreakable connection. And in physics, there are little tiny components. Say, for example, one proton in one place, or let's say one particle in one place mirrors another particle in another place, no matter how far apart they are. They could be light years apart. They did an experiment. They had a box on one side of the earth, another box on the opposite side of the earth. They changed the properties. Now, these were twin elements. They changed the properties of one, the temperature of the box on one side of the earth, and the element on the opposite side of the earth responded to the temperatures. They also magnetically induced a change in direction, or let's say it's north and south poles of this particle. And when you change one, the other one changes also. It does not matter if the thing was underwater. It doesn't matter how far apart it is, how close it is. It responds. It is linked. They're linked eternally. They're still trying to find out what that link is. But these particles are linked. Well, come to find out, every atom in your body is linked to something else. And as you change, so does it. And as it changes, so do you. And you're tied to the earth that way. You have a link to the earth the same way. Some of the particles in your body match particles in the earth. And as the earth changes, so will you. But you have the greater influence on the earth. So as you change, because you're a conscious being and you have the ability, right, to focus on being positive, you have the ability to focus to be angry if you wanted to. But as you change, the earth responds to your change, and it does so on a large scale. So that's very interesting too. There were experiments done in this. You can't dispute them. They are indisputable. And at the time when they did this, just about every single scientist that read those peer-reviewed papers and recreated the experiment were blown away. But it gave them something to really contemplate, right? To think about, to broaden their minds and to say, wait a minute, there's something else to this going on. We need to find out what this is. When you find out these facts, and some of these presentations cover these facts, it really boosts your faith and helps you understand some of the hidden links that are quite obvious. Some of the hidden links are obvious between you and the earth and you and your environment. Right? Just like in your home, have you ever had a person come in your house and they are negative and they just totally deplete the life out of your house? Have you ever had that? And then you have another person that comes in like a child who's full of life, full of energy. They come into your house and they just brighten the thing up beyond belief. Have you ever had that? So you impact your environment all the time. All the time. That's why I don't like, personally, when a hateful person comes around, the contrast is so great when it comes to wherever I dwell, because I don't permit myself to be of a certain mindset, regardless of where I am. And so the contrast is so great. Everybody picks up on it, right? They can always tell when somebody negative is around me, because I do not believe in looking backward. I just simply continue to go forward, and I don't sulk. You know how people sulk? They say, well, if I would have this and if I would have that, I don't do that. But because it does no good. It produces absolutely zero, nothing. It does nothing. I will reflect sometimes to improve myself and my interactions with other people, but I certainly will not invite darkness and negativity and hopelessness and all those things into my life. There's no need for that. No need for that. Yesterday is gone, right? It's gone. You can't get yesterday back. You can't go back and change anything you did yesterday. It's gone. It's a memory. It's out of our reach. We can't do anything about it. So I don't dwell like that. I really don't. I just continue to go forward, right? Now, unfortunately, a lot of people are stuck in the past. They are. And they become quite negative and gloomy. Right, they are. They're gloomy. They're just Charlie Brown negative. And these individuals, unfortunately, they carry a darkness around with them everywhere they go. And things continue to happen in their lives that are unfortunate because they're calling them to be. It's what they're saying, darkness, come on, join me. You know, I have your characteristics. So they give darkness a home within themselves, and they don't even know it. They don't understand it, right? My hope is that some of these presentations will bring that to light, and people will say, oops, no more of that. I'm not doing that anymore. Because once you experience an environmental change, a change in the people in your household, right, then wonderful things happen. I'll give you one test, and then we'll go into the book of Luke. When you're around other people, right, what's in them will always test what's in you. So let me give you this key. When anybody around you attempts to aggravate you and to bring your day down, simply don't agree with them internally. You don't have to voice anything. Just don't agree with them internally, right? They will always try to attract you to whatever they are inside. Don't agree with it. Don't agree, and watch what happens. When you don't agree with negativity, with defeat, with darkness, with all these tactics that are used to get you into this negative mindset, when you don't agree with it, they have no choice but to leave or change. It is so funny. And what happens is the more you resist this, right, the more your environment changes. Right? Now, this is done in a couple of ways. People try to get you in this negative mindset in a couple of ways. Normally, they bring up a conversation about somebody else. Simply don't entertain it anymore. Don't entertain it within yourselves. Don't do it. Don't join in and begin to agree with them about how, how negative or dumb or whatever this person is over here. Don't do that. Don't do that. Instead, when they start talking about a person, have compassion upon the individual and say a prayer to that person internally. You don't have to say this out loud. You don't have to speak a word. Say a prayer in your heart that the Father will lift up that person. Show that person where their errors are, right? And begin to work in their life like he did in your life. Now, that's a prayer of great compassion towards somebody else. If you do this, you combat darkness in a multitude of ways. If somebody ever drags you into a conversation about somebody else, you have agreed to allow darkness to work in your life. Therefore, you're not resisting darkness, you're entertaining it. And darkness then has a rite of passage into your day, and things will go wrong, right? But if you stand firm on the Word of God, when somebody else is talking negative about somebody else, and you do not take the option to join in and talk about somebody else, but you instead begin to have compassion upon the person, realizing that you were the same way, right? That you made possibly greater mistakes. You say, Lord, please help this person. You don't have to speak a word. You don't have to pray out loud. You don't have to speak a word, period. But if you begin to pray internally in your heart, right? What happens is you start combating darkness on the spiritual level, right? And on that spiritual level, you're going to see a physical change of everybody around you. They will always try to bait you, to hook you, to get you into a negative or degrading conversation about somebody else. They'll always try this. And there are characteristics God named in the Bible as to exactly what they do. And they do it all the time, continuously. Like, for example, being a talebearer. That's taking one story and carrying to somebody else. That is in the field or in the realm of darkness. That's not the realm of righteousness. And they will always try to have you carry a story that you heard from them to somebody else. They'll make it interesting. It could be based in fact. It's still tale-bearing, right? Tale-bearing. God named a few things in the book of Proverbs that we are never to do. In fact, he named things he hates. And those are one of the things he hates. He didn't like that. So when we carry one story, right, one story about somebody to another person, he hates that. And when you do that, of course, you're going to be resisted by him. Now, he still has grace and mercy, but don't expect blessings. Okay, don't do that. When you're talking about somebody else, don't do this. And this is my issue with social media, because all it does is promote a conversation about other people that are not in that proximity where you are. And if you think about it, the majority of the conversations that are had on social media are about somebody else, are they not? When you have a private message, your text messages, right? I guarantee you people are texting you about what somebody else is doing. This happens all the time. When you no longer entertain that, your whole life is going to change. If people could simply overcome that, if they would never discuss somebody else's business in their absence ever again, your life would change totally. I'm telling you, your life would change. But let me give you the warning. For those who engage in that, God said it's a curse in your life, period. Whether he loves you or not, it's still a curse. It's still a curse. He's going to have grace and mercy upon you, but don't expect blessings. When you have a briefcase full of darkness and you carry that briefcase everywhere you go and you're helping to spread that darkness of what God calls darkness, don't expect a blessing from him. You'll have his grace and mercy, but do not expect a blessing. Do you guys see how that works? Do you see how that works? I'm hopeful, right, throughout these presentations that people catch on to this and they totally break free. They break free of some of the things that they're doing that they don't even know they're doing, right? A lot of people, because of this social environment, they're not aware they're doing it. And what would happen to Facebook if nobody ever talked about another person again? All right. I have a rule in the company of another person. I never talk about a third party. I don't do that. I don't do that unless I'm praying for the person, edifying the person, or trying to find a solution to a problem they have. I do not discuss them. I will not join into a conversation about how somebody is messing up, how dumb they are, or anything else. I will never do that. I'll never do that. As a consequence, the Lord is always, He's always in my life in very positive ways, right? You guys hear it. Sometimes I'm dead tired, like this morning, right? How am I so rejuvenated? I didn't get an ounce of sleep, right? But this rejuvenation period comes, this excitement period comes, and it comes by way of the word, because most of the time when I'm tired like that, I start reading the Bible, and all of a sudden, kapoof, I'm charged, full of energy. The human body doesn't do that by itself. The Lord's doing exactly what he said he would do. But I'm also very resistant of conversations. People write all the time, and they say, well, so-and-so did this and that, and they try to spark up conversations about each other. I tell them, I'm going to hang up if you start talking about somebody else, and if they persist, I'm going to hang up. I tell them beforehand, don't think it rude, but I do not discuss other people on the phone. If they're not here, I'm not going to discuss it. If we're not praying for them, we have no business talking about them. So I'm going to hang up, right? I do that I hang up on people quite a bit because they persist. They try to talk about somebody, right? And click, and they get dial tone. Well, they used to. Now it's just nothing. But in other words, I'm telling you that if you resist darkness for real, you're going to have godly results every single time. Not sometimes, every single time. God's word is present all the time. All the time. Not sometimes, all the time. And the prophetic outcome of everything you do, there's a prophetic outcome. Jesus prophesied the outcome of everything you do. The Father gave to the prophets the other half of that. So everything you do has already, there's already a result to that God explains in the Bible. You don't have to believe it. You're still going to have the results of what the Father has already decreed. Right?